The universe began with what scientists call the Big Bang. So the Big Bang was the inception of both time and space. So a lot of people think the Big Bang was like a fireworks where it started at a single point and then it went off and things kind of exploded from there. But that goes against everything we really know about the universe. We don't think that there is actually a special point within the universe. So what we think actually happened in the Big Bang is that the Big Bang actually happened at all points of space at the same time. So when the Big Bang happened, everything was very, very dense at all spots in space. And space was a bit smaller because it was so dense and so hot that as the universe progressed in time, things actually started spreading out. So the universe began growing. And when it began growing, all of these super dense particles actually kind of got farther apart. They got a little more diffuse and a little more diffuse. And this played a major role in the universe because when things were really, really hot and really, really close together, they just bounce off each other and they can't kind of come together and form anything. So the early universe, there was no stars, there was no planets, there was no anything except all of this material super densely packed together. It's only once these things started to kind of move away from each other as the universe was expanding that they could cool down. So it took a long time for these things to cool down. For the first few 100 million years of the universe, there was no stars because these molecules were just too hot. But as things expanded and cooled down, they could get farther and farther and farther apart. And as they got cold enough, they actually wanted to come back together. And when they started to come back together, a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, this is when really the first stars were formed. So they lived for a little bit, and they were all hydrogen. And then once they died, what they did is they made heavier elements, which is really good for us because we're made of a lot more elements than just hydrogen. We're made of lots of other things: oxygen, helium, carbon, all of these different things. These were all made after the first generation of stars exploded. So once these first generation of stars died and all these heavier elements were everywhere, then these heavier elements could actually come back together and start forming new stars that had heavier elements. But more importantly for us, these new stars that formed actually had planets around them and asteroids around them and all the things really solar systems have around them. So once these second generation of stars began forming with these planets and solar systems, that's when the universe actually started to become what we see as we look around the universe today, where there's galaxies and stars, and most of the stars have planets. A lot of the planets have moons, and some of the planets are rocky, and some of them are gas. So the universe only developed into kind of a universe that we would recognize maybe a few billion years after the Big Bang happened.